All right, guys, here's the demonstration for your double exposure project. We already went over the history of double exposure, and we also went over the emotion wheel, talking about complex emotions because we're complex humans, not just using simple emotions like angry, happy, sad. We have a lot more complex emotions that like devastated or depressed or excited or exhilarated. This guy is an image I chose to use for your demonstration. To me, he's expressing emotion of peace, like peacefulness. So I'm also looking for another image that comes to mind when I say peace. And that to me is cherry blossoms. You also have an option of doing an extra credit step to add a little bit more to your double exposure. I'm going to show that as well here, and that is with the birds. So I have all three of my images opened up, and I'm ready to start. Before I get started though, I like this picture, but it's too much background going on. I really just want to focus on his face that's showing me that strong emotion. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to crop it. Grab my crop tool, remove a little bit of the background as well. Hit enter to accept the transformation. I also, for some reason, really want him facing the other way. I don't know why, but so I'm going to go to I'm going to duplicate my layer first. So Command J. And on my duplicated layer, I'm going to transform it. Command T, right click inside, and I'm going to go to flip horizontal. All right, now I'm ready to go. Excuse me. So in your directions, it says to select your subject first. I'm going to use my object selection tool. Hover over my guy here, and then I'm going to add a layer mask. It's going to look really weird because I've got my background guy facing the other way. So I'm just going to turn the eyeball off on my background. Now you can see that I've removed the entire outside edge of him. Next thing to do is to make your background layer active. And we're going to go down to this new tool we haven't used yet. This is the new adjustment tool. It looks like a little circle half filled in. I'm going to click on that. There's a lot of options here that you can choose from. Right now I want to select solid color. And for now, just for contrast purposes, I'm going to pick white because it makes him stand out a lot. So right now your layer order, let's label my layers. This is my subject. Right now your layer order should be subject at the top, color fill underneath that, and your background layer. Now you're going to go and bring in your second image, your double exposure image. So I'm going to get to my move tool, go to my cherry blossoms, and I want to bring this in by clicking, holding, and I'll hover over top of my project, bring it down, and drop it. I obviously need to transform it. It's really big, so before I even do anything else, I'm going to hit the transformation. I also might want to rotate it a little bit. I can also turn the opacity down on this layer so I can see where the cherry blossoms are actually going to go. Maybe something kind of like this. Rotate a little bit more. That's good enough for right now. I can adjust it more later. Turn the opacity back up on that layer. If you wanted to desaturate your layer, I forgot that step. There's the highlighted section on number 10. Before you bring in your image, before you bring in the cherry blossoms or whatever second image you were using for your double exposure, if you wanted to make it monochromatic, that means one color, the value of one color. So all the way from the highlights to the shadows of one color. Before you bring it into this, you would desaturate your image. I don't want to do that because I like the color of the flowers and I think it's going to work well with this project. So I skipped that step. I'm going to now clip this to my subject layer. And we did this a couple times in a few projects we've worked on so far. If you right click on your blossom layer or whatever your double exposure layer is, you're going to bring up this and you're going to go create a clipping mask. Now the cherry blossoms are solely onto my subject. I'm going to change the blending mode here because I want to blend these cherry blossoms in with my guys. So my blending mode is here above my layers where it says normal. I'm going to click there. Mine, I'm going to go to lighten because I think that works the best with my picture. So I'm going to click lighten. Now you can see how I can see the gentleman's face as well as the cherry blossoms. Now that I see that too, I might also transform a little bit more. So Command T and pull it out. Adjust it a little bit more. to where I can get it to where I like it. I think that right there looks good. Hit enter to accept the transformation. I'm going to rename this layer double exposure. All right, now I am ready to move on to step 2. I'm going to select my fill layer, my color fill layer here. I'm going to double click on the actual color box right here. Now, if I move my dialog box away, if it's over top of your picture, just move it out of the way. And if I take my mouse outside of the dialog box, it's going to bring up my eyedropper tool. That means I can pick up any color in here. What I'm trying to do is I want to make my double exposure layer blend seamlessly with my background. So I'm going to come over here to this color right here and click. Now that I've done that, you can see how it's changed the entire background to the color that was in my double exposure. It makes it look a lot more natural. Once I've done that, I can click OK to accept that transformation. I'm going to make the double exposure layer active now, and I am going to add a layer mask to it. Just a normal layer mask. The reason why I'm going to do this is if I see some areas where I want the subject to come through more, like maybe right here where there's a hard edge from where the double exposure is, or maybe I want a little bit more of his face to come through. So I'm going to grab my brush. I want to make sure that I have a soft round brush. This is hard round brush and it would be really harsh on my project. So I've got a soft round brush, got my brush tool. Black is my foreground color because my mask is white, always the opposite. I'm going to bring it on over, make sure your opacity and everything is where you want it to be. I'm going to increase my brush size and come on over. See how I can get rid of that hard line that was right there? I'm going to adjust my opacity down a little bit. Might bring in part of his face. That was a little too much for me. A little bit more down. There, that's better. Might bring in a little bit more of his neck over here. Okay, I like the way that looks. Maybe here. Bringing the back of his head a little bit. All right, once I have that the way that I like it, I'm going to duplicate my double exposure layer. So Command J. I'm also going to clip this back to my layers below. So I'm going to right click on my double exposure layer, create a clipping mask. I'm going to now get rid of this mask. So I'm going to click on the mask, right click on it, and I'm going to go delete layer mask, because I want to now create an inverted mask where I can bring in part of the cherry blossoms a bit more. I'm also going to change my blending mode now to normal for this one. So if I hold Alt or Option on your keyboard, as I click on my layer mask, it creates that inverted layer mask. Now make sure your foreground color is white. You're on your soft round brush tool. Adjust the opacity however you would like, and now you can come through and bring your cherry blossoms back into focus in certain areas that you would like. There, kind of like that. All right, one last thing to do. We are going to go down to the bottom of your toolbar to, again, the new adjustments, that half circle right there. And this time I'm going to go to Hue and Saturation. Brings up your dialog box right here. I'm just going to now adjust the saturation to how I like it. I think I want to bring the brightness of those cherry blossoms down a little bit. They were really too harsh, and I'm trying to have a soft color scheme to go with this peaceful theme. So I'm going to bring the cherry blossoms down. Now, if you choose not to do the extra credit, this is where you would stop. You would save your work, and you would move on to the other 3 that you are supposed to do. If you want to do the extra credit, you have the option of doing it. I think, actually, though, I will start a new video for extra credit. That way you guys don't have to listen to this the whole time. So I am going to stop sharing this. If you get to this point and you want to stop, just make sure you save your work.